Hello and welcome to Two Mutables in a Pod. This is a podcast exploring all things taboo through the lens of spirituality, astrology, and bloody life experience. For all of you who are well versed in astrology, this is all the good stuff in the 8th house. My name is Bibi.
My name is Emily.
And we are your hosts.
Welcome to episode 1. In this episode, we will be unpacking our introductions, who we are, why we both started this podcast, and a bit more about ourselves. Grab your favourite cuppa, whether it's tea, whether it's juice, whether it's coffee, sit tight and get ready to unpack our first episode with us. My name is Emily, and I also go by the name of your favourite Gemini on social media. I am a writer, researcher, and lover of African and Cuban history, social anthropology, and I'm also a student and a lover of the stars and astro.
My name is Mimi. I am an occupational therapist, spiritual counsellor, but most of all, I am a writer. I love to write. I love to express what's happening spiritually, emotionally, mentally. And like Emily, I would also say I'm a student and lover of the stars and astrology. And I think that's where our paths have beautifully merged. So let's get into how did we actually meet and how did we get here?
Yes. What a beautiful topic. Now, I'm going to take the floor with this because I love this story. It's an authentic story, and I think it also provides some context as to how we're here today. So let's fast forward to the earlier part of this year. I'd say like around January or Feb. It was definitely like a bit before Aqua season, so Aquarius season, but somewhere in Cap season. I saw you on Embody Seeds story post. I think you both had a shared like discussion with each other similar to this. And I was like, I really like your page. Like I clicked on it and I was like, ooh. And I was like, I'm typically the person who kind of feels first and thinks later. So I was like, I'm following. I feel good energy on this page. And then from then, literally on the streets of Instagram, we got talking. It was like quite organic. That's what I loved about it. I mean, yes, in the day and age of meeting people online, you know, connections can be like, they can fizzle out quite quickly, should I say. But that wasn't the case. There was always something to discuss. And I think it was always something to learn and take away from. That's the part that I love the most. So from that, you know, that's how our conversations got started. But over to you, Mamie. I mean, is there anything that you want to add to that or you want to say about that?
Yeah, like I think we have to shout out Chantel here for like allowing our paths to even like meet.
Yes,
Because if it
yes.
wasn't for like her sharing my post on her page, on her social media, I just don't
Mm-hmm.
know how we would have crossed paths. And I think like this is like one of those success stories of when you meet people
Yes.
online, because I didn't even realize it's like coming up to a year basically of when we met.
Basically. How
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
It's insane. So we're currently recording this in Sagittarius season, and yeah, it'll be coming up to Cap season. So yeah, it's almost been a year. And I think one of the beautiful things about our connection is, like you said, it's just been so organic
Mm-hmm.
and it's flowed in a true mutable sense.
Yes. We can't forget that part.
Cannot forget that. And we've always had something to talk about. And what I love is that as much as I've learned from you, you've learned from me, and it's
Mm-hmm.
constantly been that mutual understanding of we're both still learning. And like we've had
Yes.
a beautiful time of being able to learn and grow together within our knowledge of astrology just through like sending each other posts and being like, oh, what do you think of this? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's
Mm-hmm.
just been beautiful.
And that's the part I love the most. I think in the myth of like, you know, sending each other placements or sending each other posts, I really was like, no, this is magic. And I felt that
Yeah,
internally. So for me,
yeah.
like I can only echo what you said. And I honestly
Mm.
am very grateful to Chantel because without her, we would not be here today. So shout out to you, Chantel.
Shout out Chantel. Yeah. And you know what? Even though like we had the astrology stuff, it was also mixed in with just other things that we would send each other.
Yes.
And like I
Mm-hmm.
think we kind of like just soon noticed that we'd send each other like quite similar things or things that we both might find of interest and naturally
Yes.
got to know each other through the things that we'd be sending one another.
Yes, outside of the astro, outside of spirituality, I think there's memes and it's like dark humor
Yeah.
memes.
Yeah.
I love our dark humor memes because honestly, you get it. And I
Yeah.
don't even have to say much. Like I will just send a meme and
Mm,
you will understand it. So that's the
mm.
beauty of our sisterhood.
Likewise, likewise. And I think when we first connected, I don't know how early on we started to talk about each other's placements in terms of our astrology.
I'm not, I don't, it wasn't quite early on. I don't think it was early on.
Yeah.
I do remember perhaps maybe in Pisces season, like we did then start a bit more,
Mm,
but like I can't really pinpoint like a timestamp, but I don't really feel like it was early on as well. I think we just
yeah.
had opinions that we shared on certain things, and it was like we saw this post, and then I think then we started. I really remember the, I guess you can say the crux or the bulk of when we actually started looking at astro placements, if I'm not wrong, was really in like I feel like it was May, April,
Okay.
around that time, and that's when we started to go hard. And I was like, oh my god, this is so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I guess like the reason why I was asking was I mentioned about the mutable energy that we both had and or have
Yes.
within our charts. And for anyone that's listening, you will know that our title is Two Mutables in a Pod. And
Yes.
I think it's worth just kind of explaining a little bit about, well, what even is that? Oh, it was one of those names that kind of just dropped into my system. I
hmm
think we often share each other's work on Instagram, and
Yes.
anytime I see what you post, or I think likewise when you see something that I post, there's just this common understanding. And
Yes.
I was just like, our minds just meet in such a like in such a way that I think I know Emily's gonna get it. Like if there's anyone that's following me that's gonna get it, it's
It's
Emily.
me.
Yeah. And like naturally, so in terms of when we're looking at astrology, when we look at the
Yes.
qualities, we have three groups that we can kind of differentiate people in
hmm
terms of the dominant energies that we have.
Yes.
So for anyone who's listening, there is cardinal, there is fixed, and there is mutable. I
Mhm.
don't know if we'll get into it in this one, but mutable is basically Gemini, Virgo, and Sag and
Sag.
Pisces, yeah,
Yes.
being that dominant. And both Emily and I have both our Sun and our
hmm
Mercury within mutable signs.
Signs.
Yeah. And I think that's quite a beautiful way that we connect because it's our personal sense of self, who we
hmm
are, and it's the way that we
hmm
express ourselves. And
Yes.
it's that beautiful kind of flowy, versatile, unexpected ways in which we just show up. And that's where I just thought, we are just two
Two
mutables in a pod.
mutables in a pod.
Yeah.
Wow. And I think the first time, you mentioned that to me, when you finally did, I was like, oh, no, Mimi, this is the name. Like there was no second guessing. There was no going back and forth. It was just a lot of confirmation because I think
Mm,
for both of us, even with the fact that our suns are immutable signs, I think in essence we, like you said, how we express ourselves
mm,
outwardly, and I think even with our posts, but just as who we are, as
yeah.
people, there's a lot of common ground, and I do believe that is due down to the mutable energy that we possess. So when you said
Mm.
the name, I was like, yes, this feels like home, this feels like an accurate description of who we are, and
Yeah.
really what we seek to show up in the world as.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. And I think, I don't know, like what better energy to have to kind of showcase that to the world in terms of like
Yes.
that team working dynamic.
hmm
Like mutables bring that ability to work with one
Yes,
another.
they do. They
And I
do.
think like this is a perfect partnership to showcase that to the world and to introduce astrology through
Yes,
lived experience, but through the Black experience as well.
experience too. Yes. I would like to echo and just like I think you touched base on the modalities, and although we're not going into this in depth
Yeah.
today, I think
Yeah.
one of the key things for me is that, each modality has, it's called channeling points. And I think for mutable energy, it really speaks to the collaborative side of that.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and for me, when I think about us, it's collaboration, even if it's just in our personal posts, even if it's in what we do in our own personal sense, it's always been collaborative and supportive. So for me, I second it and I agree with what you said. So, and it was nice to hear the rundown of this history, like seeing the journey and, where we've come from, where we started from. And like you said, it's nearly coming up to a year. And I think so many things have happened within this year. And I also think the fact that Saturn being in Pisces, which is currently, one of the major transits that are going on, for people who might not know, people who also know, Saturn is a planet, I call it, it's the god of time. It's the planet of discipline. And I think it's a planet of structure and foundations. And I think it's quite cool as well that we also met at this time too. I
It
think, yeah,
is. It is
yeah.
so, so cool. And if you don't mind me saying, like you're in your Saturn return
Hmm.
as well.
Hmm.
So I think it's
Yes,
quite a beautiful time for us to meet when you're in your Saturn return and me having basically just come
yeah.
out of it,
Come out of
but
it.
also like
Yes.
having quite heavy Saturn energy. So yeah, again, like when you say you can't make these things up, sometimes I'm like, well, actually, the stars would already tell you that this is what's going to
Exactly.
happen. And
Hmm.
that's a beautiful thing about astrology.
Just like off the back of your point as well, I think the beauty of you having gone through your Saturn return and like the fact that I'm entering it into the peak phase 2025, pray for me.
Mm, 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 mm.
It's
Prayers, prayers,
beautiful because I
prayers.
think there are lessons, there are things, life lessons, life experiences that you can share with me. And I think although mutables don't tend to get the credit for this, I'd say that we actually learn best through life's experiences as opposed to being, yes, and I, over the years, I think anyway, I've become more open, receptive to that too, learning from other people's life experiences too. So it's quite interesting, like I said, the time frame in which we met and how we met.
I love that perspective about mutables, like learning through life experience. And
Spirits, yes.
yeah, like I love that perspective. And I think for anyone who has heavy mutable energy, that's definitely something to take note of and to kind of
Hmm.
allow yourself to lead through life experiences. And that will mean like putting yourself out there, seeing what happens, like
Yes.
making, being in vulnerable positions or places, but knowing that there might be something to gain from it.
100%. And I think you made a beautiful point. Being vulnerable, it
Mm,
in other translations for me also means being able to get it wrong and not beat yourself up about it too. And I think that is
mhm.
particularly if you have Virgo mutable energy and also Pisces mutable energy, I think that can be one of the issues that exists around that axis. But yes.
Don't we know it? Don't we know it? Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So, I mean, onto the fun part. I think it would also be quite interesting for, our listeners, people who've just joined us for the first time, and who don't know too much about us, to kind of figure out some of our, I don't want to say aspirations, but some of our values, some of the things that keep us going. And, without further ado, I'm going to, fire away with some questions to Mimi just to figure out a bit more about her. But this is in no shape or form an interview. It's just a chilled and forward discussion.
Go for it.
Okay, perfect. So, my first question is, and it's spiritual related. What is one spiritual item that you have on standby, and what is the significance of this item for you?
Like a physical item.
Yes, it could be a physical item. It could also be something that you physically use um, for your
Mm.
spiritual purposes.
Oh, mine. Oh, I think I might cheat because I've got two,
Okay, go ahead.
but they are
That's
linked. I
fine.
promise they're linked. So
Yes.
I am a lover of tarot.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter
Okay.
how many tarot cards or oracle decks, I will always go back to my Rider-Waite classical tarot deck. And
Well,
that for me is my deck. I don't use it on anyone else apart from
Yes.
me. Like that's it's got my energy infused
Janet.
into it.
Oh,
And
yes.
I love that because the way that it just speaks to me so clearly.
Hmm.
And I think I've developed a relationship with this
With
deck
it.
that we just get each other.
Oh, that's so
We
beautiful. And
just get each other.
yes, that's really beautiful. And I think I love the fact that that's something you can, because I think, as you've mentioned, you are an occupational therapist, but you are a spiritual worker. And I think
Mm,
in being of service to others, there's a lot that you might do external for others. But it's really nice to know that you own something that's personal to you and is for you and is embodied with your energy.
yeah,
Yeah.
completely. And where I said I might cheat a little bit is because the reason why it's significant to me is I do I'm gonna say daily, but I'm not like it's not every single day,
Okay.
but
Okay.
most times during the week I do a one card pull, which is a tarot
Hmm.
meditation, and I actually use an app where I
Okay.
speak into a journal about
Hmm.
the card that I've pulled. And that to
Ah,
me is my centering practice, just
just.
to see if I relate to the card, but see what
Hmm.
emotions that card is bringing up for me and if I feel we are speaking the same language.
Same language.
So,
That's
I mean, you can do it with
wow.
pen and paper, but it's
Yes,
just a way to kind of keep me in check with myself, but also with my guides.
I love that. I love the idea, and especially not to like. I'm never going to discredit, the paper and the pen and the journal and the diary, but I think for the world that we live in, being on the go, sometimes
Yeah.
it can be a lot to just take away that time to do that. And I think having that app that you can go to and like actually verbally communicate your thoughts,
Mm,
feelings, and emotions in relation to that card, I think that's
mm,
beautiful. And I see
mm.
why you can't separate the two because they both come in hand.
They do, yeah. So basically, it's one. It's one
Yeah.
answer.
So you haven't
Yeah.
cheated, don't worry. You've not cheated at all.
I love that. I love that question.
Do you know what? It literally came to me and I was like, it wasn't hard. It just came to me. I
Yeah.
thought, you know what? In relation to spirituality and Mimi, what do I want to ask? And it just came.
Beautiful. Beautifully asked.
Thank you. On to the next question. Hopefully, it's useful to you. I would like to ask this question, and it's about a life. It's life related. So, as someone who is proactive and on the go, how do you honor the days that require you to just be still?
Mm. Do you know what?
Hmm.
I think I give this perception of constantly being on the go. And
Hmm.
like I was telling a friend today that I had a really busy day, but I couldn't understand why I had a busy day. And when I told her about my day, she was like, "No, you've had a really busy day." But I don't like the pockets of stillness that I get. I feel
Hmm.
like I'm so still and practically horizontal. In fact, sometimes I probably am horizontal. So, so like for me, it is a literal like lying on my sofa
Okay. Hmm.
and just like I'm just okay with that. I don't know how
Something
to
so
just
simple. Yes. No.
yeah. I I think I give myself a lot of permission to be in those phases, and I
Okay.
think the permission is what allows me to honor.
Oh.
Yeah.
So cute. I love that. I just love that.
I don't know
This
if
is the
that answers the
Pisces in you.
question.
No, that does answer the question because I think to me it's not that you're searching for this stillness. You're not doing, a million and one things to get to a place of stillness. It's the small things that allow you
Mm,
to be still in those moments in which you appreciate. And I think, yeah, appreciation comes out quite loud and strong for me when I hear you
yeah.
explain the reasonings and just sitting on a sit, like literally you being still sitting on a sofa. And, for some people, it's like, no, I need to be with my, X, Y, and Z things to keep me grounded. But it's like, it's very simple and practical things. So I think that's
Mm,
beautiful. And it does answer the question.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
Last question, my last and final question. Okay, astro related. When looking
Yeah.
at harmonious aspects in a synastry chart, what are some of your top favorite aspects that scream good vibes and it's just like really positive and supportive energy?
So we're talking overall, not like in harmony
Overall,
to
yes.
me. Okay.
No, yes, overall.
My mind goes in a million directions. But you know what? Like, I keep going back to Mercury, and
Hmm.
I just like, of course, like the moon is important, your
Yes,
overall dominant energy is important, but communication is such a big thing, and like
it really is.
yeah, like how we relate to one another. And I
Hmm.
think also like the way that we express our values to
Yes,
one another, whether that's your partner, whether that's your child, your parent. I think that can give you a lot of information in terms of like your Mercury placement. So Mercury in the simplest form is the planet of communication, right? But
yes.
like we're talking about expression, we're talking about written, we're talking about verbal, we're talking about the way
Hmm.
that we process communication as well.
Yes.
And
Hmm.
I think that is really important to understand because whenever we're looking at points of conflict or points of disruption between partnerships, like
Hmm.
usually it's communication related.
Listen,
Yeah, I
very,
don't know what the
yeah.
stats are, but like a lot of
No.
things break down because of
Yes,
communication.
communication. You know, there's this meme and the man's like lack of communication, and no, it's it's very, very real. Like I think one
It
thing that stood out to
is.
me as you were speaking is the processing, because it's like you
Mhm.
could be on the same page as somebody, but you see it from two different angles based off how you've
Yeah.
processed that
Yes.
experience thing or word said to you. So, you're onto it. You're onto it, Mimi.
I mean, there are so many other places that I'm like dying to say, but to keep it to one, I would absolutely say
Yes.
Mercury. So if anyone's
Okay.
like listening and you're like wondering how you can relate to one another, start there. Start with your Mercury placements.
Great starting point. I like that.
Mm.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being on the hot seat. The floor is now yours and I will allow you to take lead.
The floor is mine. So I'm
Yeah.
now going to ask you some questions, Emily. Right.
Yay.
So let's start with, where are we going? Let's start with an astro question.
Okay.
What is your favorite placement in your chart?
Oh, okay. Placement wise, you know what? Like the first thing that jumps out to me, I will not lie, is my Sag moon. I think
Mm.
that keeps me going. It keeps me going. I know,
Yeah.
there are a million other things and other placements that I could speak about, but I think for me, it's understanding. I think throughout life's current, should I say, there's always been that I know it's going to get better. And I know there's hope on the other end or the other side of the tunnel. So I think it's been
Yeah.
that beacon of light. And don't get me wrong, the excessive side of Sag exists, but I think I would not take away my love for traveling, exploration, and learning about
Yeah.
cultures. This is why I, in essence, see myself as an anthropologist because I love the study
Mm,
of
mm,
society, but social
mm.
anthropology. And I think that is really down to that Sag placement. So yeah, that is my answer. Really cool as well. Oh my gosh.
I love that. And I think like, or whilst I don't have your full chart in my brain, like
Yes.
when I think of like the early stages of us communicating, if you like go onto your social media feed, like I
Hmm.
always used to see like travel photos and like you just being
Yes.
that curious wanderer and that explorer of the world, and the way that you
Yes.
tie it all into some sort of a cause, I think
Hmm.
is so, so, so Sagittarian, and
Oh my
like
gosh.
it really shines through you. So
Yes.
I love
Thank
that.
you.
I
Thank
love that.
you. Oh my gosh. No, making my heart all mushy. But I thank you so much. I really appreciate those words and I resonate with it completely.
Yeah, I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. So let's move into a spiritual question.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, let's have a think. So a spiritual question. What is one spiritual practice that you haven't tried that you would like to try?
You've got me on this. I, you have me on this. I think for myself, I don't, can I choose two? I think I am torn between two, but there's one that I
Mm,
would really, really like to try. That would be a past life regression. Whether I don't
mm,
know whether that's like I don't know if I could do the hypnotism. I'm scared, but the reading, yes. I have been curious about the hypnotism though. I won't lie. I won't lie. But I think the past life regression, um, and working through another one which like ties into this, I guess, is going through your body. So I think they are like outside of Reiki. I don't know what kind of healing method this is, but essentially they look for and they scan where the trauma is, but then they go a bit deeper as well. But I
mm.
don't know the name of it. But I heard like one of my friends had it done, and I was like, whoa. So yes, I think
Okay.
those two things would be. But the past life regression is like quite high up, as you know already. Quite up there for me. And yeah, the second part of scanning and detecting the body, because I think there's so much that the physical eye
Mm,
can't see. Um,
mm,
and of course, yes, you know, if you do have spiritual practices, if you do seek spiritual healers, gurus, mentors, whatever the case might be, you know, you might be able to go a bit further into some of your ailments and your, you know, the things that you internally struggle with. But I think a
yeah.
nice body scan that can actually like really detect like the roots and origin of certain things would be quite cool. So yeah, I think those two would be the two up there for me.
I love both of those answers.
Yeah.
And I know we've obviously spoken about past life regression
Hmm.
or past life readings, but the second
Yes.
one, yeah, I don't know if it's called psychic surgery or if it's something else, but
Yeah. I don't know the name, but it probably might be, you know. Might look at I will have a look at the name because I know I have like I actually remember the lady's like offerings, but I just can't remember the
okay.
name for the life of me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I've got like, I wish I could ask you so many more questions, but perhaps we'll do that offline about that. But beautiful responses. So let's think about a life question.
Ooh,
Hmm.
okay. Mm-hmm.
When do you feel most at home?
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm gonna take a second to process that. When do I feel most at home? I won't lie, like off the back of me, straight as an intuitive answer, it's literally when I make other people feel at home. Like I love this gathering of people, bringing people together. I think that's when I feel the most at home. And again, maybe perhaps it's due to things that have happened in my own life and growing up, but there's something about bringing people together. And I do think I have a knack for that, you know, but it just makes me feel, yes, I'm at home. And I love bringing people together. There's another thing. Actually, I'm going to cheat. I am going to cheat here. But this, I will place this down to perhaps my Sag IC. But I love listening to other people's experiences about their life. Like it really makes me feel really satisfied and fulfilled. Like just letting them speak, talking about their experiences, hearing about their journeys. That's another thing that really like fulfills my soul. And I guess you can say makes me feel at home. So I think that speaks
Yeah.
to my IC and Sag as well. But yes, these two answers.
Mm. I love that you kind of tied it into that soul fulfillment and what kind
Yes.
of feels good, but like it's the extension that you create or the network that you create by bringing people together. Like I think
Yes.
that's that whole process of collaboration and community is like everything
Quite big for me, it is. And I think likewise yourself,
is.
big on community. So yes.
Yeah,
A
yeah,
shared value that we share together.
yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
That was really fun.
No, it was. And thank you. I think your questions are quite cool, quite expansive and open-ended. So I love that. And thank you.
Yeah.
The next section of where we will be heading is looking at one word that describes the other person. So in my instance, I will be using one word to describe Mimi. And, you know, I didn't have to think too hard about this one. It was one that actually, that's not a bad thing, a very good thing. It was one that just stood out to me like quite instantaneously, but it is inquisitive. Um, And I love how no conversation with you is surface level. And not that you have this inherent need to know the whys, but it's almost this search for knowledge, which I see and I love in you. And it's not, yes, I mean, you are quite learned, but it's not that you're sitting there with academia, but it's like, when I speak to you, it's like, okay, let's uncover this and then let's unpack this. And then what is the root cause of this? And like you interweave quite unknowingly. And like maybe again, it's a subconscious thing that happens for you. And I guess, and I think I've said this to you before, I can really see why you are an OT because it happens quite naturally for you. But like, you also, in that inquisitiveness, you also extend space. You allow people to be present, to share what they need to share, and follow through with that investigation with them. And I think, that's what I love. And that's one thing, one word I can use to describe you, but one of the qualities and the traits that you possess that I would not change about you. So yeah,
Oh,
that's my description
don't.
word. Yeah.
How many times I'm like, please remember that I've got a Pisces sun.
I'm sorry.
There is like the stereotypes are a little bit real about Pisces
Well,
being emotional. I just might cry. But
I'm
it's like
sorry.
that's really warmed my heart. I
Oh,
really, yeah, I really appreciate that, and I have to
yes.
now digest that and like think about you and your energy and
Yeah.
how I would describe you because there's so many words that I would use.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
do you know what? Oh, not to cheat again, but as I said that, the word that was coming up or the phrase that was coming up was an abundant spirit. And I
Oh my
just think you,
gosh.
honestly, like, I think just when in conversation with you,
Mhm.
or like even when we're texting or voice noting each other, there's just this
Yes.
sense of connection to abundance. And I don't mean it in a monetary sense, but knowing
Mhm.
that there is more than enough and that kind of
Yes.
unwavering faith and connection of, I have so much that I
Mhm.
can share that with people, and those
Yes.
people can share it with their people, and we
Oh.
can all
Mhm.
gather in this one place. And that
Mhm.
it's an extension of love, I feel. But
Yes.
for me, it's like it's just this abundant spirit
Oh.
encapsulated in your body. And I just think
Oh.
it's such a rare thing to find, I
Yes.
feel like nowadays, to
Mhm.
have that where it's not in association to what can you give me? What can you provide for me?
Yes.
Or how
Mhm.
can we turn this into like a financial gain? Like there's just this
Yes.
easefulness I feel that you bring with that
Oh my
abundant spirit.
gosh. Thank
It's
you.
it's so like it's so
Yes.
beautiful to witness, to be around, and to just to
I love
experience.
it. I love it. And it just made me feel so warm. And thank you, because that's such a beautiful description. And it's just like, as I say, I would tell Mimi how gifted she is because she's highly gifted, but it's like very, very attuned to like, I resonate with that message. And thank you for
Mm.
sharing that ancient wisdom with me.
No, thank you. And likewise, like I know we've spoken about it, but one of the other words is going to be intuition because I think
Yes.
you are highly skilled and highly talented as well with your intuition. And I think those that are listening will journey into that discovery and see
Yes.
that as well. So it's an exciting time to be part of two mutables in a pod.
Yay! And, you know, I love that ending. I love how you wrap that up. And honestly, there's no other mutable that I would do this with aside from you because, you get it. And I think
Yeah.
above, outside of the astro, outside of, the life experiences that we've had, like our souls know that we need to meet for this purpose. So
Oh
thank
my
you very much for
goodness.
being here today. And,
Yeah.
just before we summarize, I guess, before we round things off, um, I will, I guess we can ask each other this question, but it'd be nice to know what we both expect or what we would
Mm.
like viewers to expect from this podcast. What could they look forward to? What might they come across in the coming episodes that we record?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, there's so much because I like how many times have we said like I wish people could just like see the conversations that we've had in the DMs or like if they could listen into our voice notes because there's
Yes,
so much that we speak about from analyzing celebrities charts, especially celebrities from Africa, celebrities from the
like
Caribbean, like
Caribbean, yes.
connecting to
Our
black
culture.
artists, black
Hmm.
creators, and weaving their culture into astrology, I think is
Yes.
such a unique lens. And I'm really excited that we get to share that with a wider network. So that's definitely something that
Yes.
people can look forward to.
Forward to. And literally, just like off as you were speaking, I was just thinking like it's also appreciation and a celebration of
Yes.
that culture, that talent, that creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's not amplified enough. And there are some
Mm-hmm.
continents, some countries that we will be looking at that you might not typically come across, that you might not typically
Mm-hmm.
hear about. And I think it will be nice to shine a light on that talent, on that creativity and the culture. And I also think it's, I was, I've been saying this with Mimi off like us recording that it's really having those heartfelt convos, the stuff that
Yeah.
people venture, like I guess I don't want to say fear, but might not talk about as
Mm.
much.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a lot of discourse going on online. There are a lot of things, a lot of information to digest.
Mm.
But I think some of the conversations that we are going to have in the coming weeks, in the coming months, are really going to center on things that are real, raw, and deep. So
Yeah.
I also, would love viewers to come with an open heart. You know, come ready just to listen. You don't have to bring
Mm-hmm.
anything but yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Just bringing yourself is enough for us. And I hope that this platform, you listen to us, also gives you a space to feel heard and feel seen. Although you might not physically see us, although we might not
Yeah.
physically be with you in the
Mm.
flesh. I think we are doing this because we know the importance of community. We know the importance of what it is to have like-minded individuals come together.
Mm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
be open to hearing
Mm.
about different things and be open, come with an open heart. And honestly, you will receive.
Mm, mm, mm. And plentiful you will receive. And I
Yes.
think it's just so valid what you said about like that witnessing and being seen, because
Yes.
like I think apart whilst we've kind of like spoken about it, but we are two African women who have
Yes.
had an abundance of life experience amongst and between us, and obviously we've got the rest of our lives to continue journeying into that. But there's
Yes.
so much I think that we have experienced that in our cultural framework might be viewed as taboo or might be
Yes.
seen as like that doesn't happen or we don't talk
You don't
about those
speak about
things.
that. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so it's kind of like we want to be able to shine a light on that, but also to give maybe some validation from an astrological, but also a human perspective as to
Yes.
no, these things do happen, and let's
This
start
is
to
life.
let's start to
Yeah.
open up what's the term? Let's just start to open up about these things.
Things. I love how we both pause because we're looking for a term that we know the term. And I think it's quite real, as you mentioned, because I think in our community, there is a tendency to just deal with things on your own, deal with life on your
Mm,
own, deal with the problems.
mm,
But you actually find that, once one or two come forward, more than one person is going through the same thing, or it might not be the
yeah.
same circumstances, but it's of similar origins. And I think there is, like you've mentioned, it is time to remove the band-aid, like speak about the
Mm,
things that are deep
mm,
seated and really
mm,
release the soul. So yes.
hmm 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 So
Yeah,
yeah, we look forward to welcoming
we
you on this
do.
journey, and
We
yeah,
do.
thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for being here. And again, I would actually like to touch base on this. I think I forgot to do this earlier on, but we do record monthly, so do, look out for us each month if you can. And, we will give it our best and we are coming with ourselves, our authentic selves. And like Mimi said,
Mm,
like, you know, tune in for us.
mm. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So until the next time,
See you later. Take care.
bye bye.
Bye.